Are you tired of responsibility? Do you suffer from decision fatigue early in the morning? Can't bear the praise for all your good deeds anymore? Don't worry, we got you. In this episode, we will show you how to lose your belief in free will in 4 easy steps.
Disclaimer. These 4 steps do not in fact guarantee the loss of your belief in free will. All losses in belief in free will are purely accidental. We take no responsibility for any remaining beliefs in free will.
Jokes aside, usually people assume that we have free will and are responsible for our actions. After all, we think carefully about what we want to do, especially when making important decisions. We praise others for their behavior or blame them for it. Of course, this would be unjustified if free will is an illusion. And this is exactly what some philosophers, even dating back to ancient Greece, have argued. They claim that free will does in fact not exist, and that we are hence not responsible for any of our actions. So we would also never deserve blame or praise. But are they right? Do we have free will? Well, that's a philosophical question. Come along on a tour of 4 thought experiments. At the end, you will have lost your belief in free will. All standard disclaimers apply. Imagine that there's a brilliant but mad scientist called Rick. Rick's aim is to make you push a person that he really dislikes off a bridge. Let's call that person Jerry. But Rick doesn't want to be directly involved, so one night he abducts you and implants a chip in your brain without you knowing anything about it. Wait, isn't that totally unrealistic? Yes. Yes, it is. We're philosophers. We like unrealistic thought experiments. Get over it. In principle, your brain functions normally, even after the abduction. But if and only if Rick presses a simple button, the chip in your brain sends electrical signals that influence your thoughts and behavior. One day, you'll see Jerry standing at a bridge. Rick takes direct advantage of the situation and pushes the button. As a result, you develop the urge to kill Jerry. And in fact, you don't hesitate to push Jerry off that bridge. Now, has your will been free? And are you responsible for pushing Jerry off the bridge? Obviously not. Clearly, you were manipulated and not in control of what you wanted. Therefore, you should be excused. But that doesn't show that you don't have free will in general, does it? It just shows that cases of manipulation make our will unfree. Boring. Let's change the scenario a bit. Suppose Rick managed to program you at the beginning of your life. As a result, you will develop a desire to push Jerry down a bridge when you get the chance to. Otherwise, you are not influenced by Rick. We know, still far-fetched. Bear with us, this is important. Now, in other regards, you have not been influenced by Rick. You can go about your daily life and develop desires in a normal way. Also, you can adjust your will according to what you deem right or wrong. Only in the case where you see Jerry on the bridge, the program kicks in and you automatically develop a desire to push him off the bridge. And sure enough, you murder Jerry. Now, ask yourself, have you acted on your free will and do you thus deserve to be blamed for your action? You'll surely protest. No way, it's not your fault that someone programmed your brain in a way to push Jerry off a bridge at some point in your life. There is no important difference between being directly manipulated in the moment or being pre-programmed. Both cases seem to make free will impossible and thus blame unjustified. But don't we still have free will in other cases where we are not manipulated? Has this all been clickbait? Is the cake a lie? Let's see. Finally, something more plausible. We now want to ask you to imagine that you grew up in a community which forces you to undergo a strict training from early age. The community you grow up in sees Rick as their leader and teaches everyone that they should push Jerrys off bridges whenever they get the chance to do so. The training is successful and you develop a desire to push Jerry off the bridge. And sure enough, one day you get the chance to do so. Now, the community left your ability to develop desires in a normal way completely intact, except for Jerry encounters. In those instances, you developed the desire to push Jerry off a bridge. Was your action free then? Are you to blame for what you did to Jerry? Cult indoctrination is a real thing, and we usually assume that brainwashing eradicates free will. You cannot be blamed for a weird cult of Ricks engineering your desires. In that regard, there's no relevant difference between being programmed by Rick or being raised by the Rick cult. Therefore, you shouldn't be blamed in this scenario either. Fine, you might say. But all my other desires are chosen by myself. I am responsible for them and thus still free. But are you though? Now we have it. This last scenario actually simply describes the world that we live in. Everything in the universe is causally determined by its past states together with the laws of nature. Yes, determinism is a thing. Sure, there's the quantum level, but we can ignore this here, you physics smarty pants out there. You are a normal human being raised in a normal society. Nonetheless, you are, of course, a product of your genes and your environment. And nothing else. You can choose desires you want to have and act upon them. But the ultimate cause of why you have a certain desire goes back to your environment and your genes. As the story goes, at some point you see Jerry at the bridge and suddenly develop the desire to push him off the bridge. And then you indeed push him off. Where did the desire come from? Well, ultimately from a combination of your genes and environment. Whatever the details, they have to refer to a combination of those. Now ask yourself, why should we regard the fourth step, the real world, as relevantly different to any of the other scenarios? In each of them, what makes you develop the desires that you have stems from something ultimately outside of your control. The environmental influences you endured and your genes. But wait, there's more. In the universe we live in, every desire you have is ultimately outside of your control. Everything that you ever wanted can be pinpointed to a story about your environment and your genes. But then, you're never free and never morally responsible for what you do, are you? Even though you have desires and a will that you can adjust to these desires, there seems to be no free will, since your will is determined by forces outside of your control. And that's the trick. That's how you lose your belief in free will in 4 easy steps. Did the last step catch you off guard? Did any one of you actually lose their belief in free will? Let us know in the comments below. The argument we've presented here is actually taken from the philosopher Derk Pereboom. Of course, Pereboom presents it in more detail, so give it a read if you're interested. What do you think? Have there been any relevant differences between the 4 cases which could justify moral responsibility and blame? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out our other videos if you like. Goodbye until next time.